We made several friends in the ocean this month. This whitefin shark sucker came from somewhere and thought Leslie and I would make a good host. It alternated between us a few times, preferring the protection of our bellies. I don't mind saying it was quite annoying and gave us a new level of sensitivity for whenever we see them on turtles. A much cuter encounter involved a tiny sharp-nosed puffer that befriended Leslie while she was shooting something on the reef. I only saw it after she backed up a bit, and the puffer followed her into the water column. It was very inquisitive and totally adorable. April was very generous with first-time captures. We'll start things off with this incredible short-nosed batfish, which we ended up visiting several times. Usually, it would crawl slowly in the rocky shallows. One time, it seemed to be doing something with its mouth. It didn't appear to be biting anything. Anyway, if you know what this behavior might be, let us know in the comment section below. We also shot it at night and noticed a few more anatomic features. There were a couple of openings at the back of the body, just above the hind legs. They would open and close fairly quickly, similar to gills, but what an odd place for gills. And we got to see the lure in action, underneath its nose. What an amazing fish. Blade fire coral can get pretty busy, but sometimes it pays off to go through all the nooks and crannies. This pink spiny fileclam was a very nice surprise and a first-time capture. By the way, that polka dot hermit crab just to the right was something we noticed only after we looked at the footage. Even though this is our second year living full-time on Bonaire, we still hire local guides once in a while, because different, and let's be honest, younger eyes can spot something we might miss. One of our favorites is Yolanda from Go With Yo Diving. She was the one that spotted this whitenose pipefish, slowly crawling in between some coral heads on the reef. Leslie found it on our second dive as well, so I decided to take out the +15 close-up lens to capture even more detail. We also try to go diving socially with friends because it takes us out of our regular routine. Keith and Candace typically go deeper than we do normally, and if we didn't go with them on this particular day, we would have missed this Caribbean two-spot octopus. Its dark red body and yellow arms immediately caught my attention, but the light show it put on while hunting was spectacular. At first, we thought this was a sea pearl, but when we got closer, it looked bumpy. Then we thought it might be some sort of eggs. It turned out to be green bubbleweed. First time we've seen that. Leslie pointed out this spoteye hermit crab, and it was in a great position for a macro shot, which is good because this guy was less than half an inch across. This shell belongs, or should I say belonged, to an Atlantic hairy triton. I use the past tense because the red claws underneath suggest it might now be occupied by a hermit crab. So the shell is a first-time capture, still waiting to see the snail. We see lots of yellowhead jawfish in the shallows. Typically, they are in sandy areas with a bit of rubble and coral debris. On one dive, we happened across a few carrying eggs in their mouths, and every few minutes they would aerate them. Here's a fun fact. The incubation period for jawfish eggs is 3 to 5 days, so we were very lucky to catch these. Leslie was on fire last month, as she also spotted this club-tipped anemone in between some rocks. It was showing a bit more for her, but I did get a good portion of it, even though it wasn't too thrilled with either of our lights. As if 9 first-time captures weren't enough, we have some terrific marine life behavior as well. This music volute was crawling on a steep sandy slope when it lost its footing and rolled over. Although it landed upside down, its very long and very flexible foot was able to get a grip in front. While it was doing that, We noticed there appears to be a separate transparent layer on the outside of the foot when it was turning itself over. If you look closely, you can see some colored dots and lines moving inside, while the external sand does not. Eventually, it was able to turn itself back into an upright position and continue its journey. Pretty awesome, right? We frequently see soapfish just lying around during the day. We may have even mentioned before that we refer to them as the laziest fish. Well, we saw two very active soapfish down south last month. At first, it looked like they were fighting, as each encounter appeared to start with them facing off, mouth to mouth. Then they made a series of close passes before breaking off and starting over, which makes us believe it was all some sort of mating ritual. It's absolutely wonderful we get to see such behavior out in the wild. At the moment of filming this, I wasn't sure what it was. When we looked at the footage later, Leslie thought it was a slate pencil urchin walking. The heavily coated spines threw me off. We're not sure if it was purposeful camouflage because it was out in the open, a collected buildup of algae over time, or it was sick. Either way, we haven't seen them walking before. That same night, we also saw a few two-spined sea stars walking around as well. I can never get over the fact that I expect their arms to move, when it's actually the tube feet under their arms that do all the hard work. We snuck up alongside this Graysby as it was getting a good cleaning from a Peterson shrimp. After a short while, a second popped up from the bottom for some detail work inside the mouth to keep those chompers in good condition. And speaking of cleaner shrimp, we used the +15 close-up lens to capture a spotted cleaner shrimp in a giant anemone. It had a hold of something and was making a rather nice meal of it. We showed initial phase bluehead wrasse practicing mating activities last October, and since we saw them again in April, we thought it might be nice to show that this activity occurs at least twice a year, perhaps even more. Pay attention on your swim out or back from the reef to catch this activity in the shallows. Leslie and I each found our own baby octopus at nearly the same time on a night dive. After shooting our own discoveries for a while, we began to signal each other to come see what we found. Both of us were adamant that the creature we found was better, and neither wanted to move and risk potentially losing a great find we wanted to share with the other. Ultimately, I relented and visited hers, only to realize we both found the same animal. The karma could not have been more equal that night. Cones are sea snails with shells that are cone-shaped. This one is called a crown cone and is going full speed across the sand. Since full speed is pretty slow, I swapped out lenses to get a nice macro shot of the siphon, including a tiny unsuspecting fish swimming into it and getting abruptly blown out a few seconds later. Believe it or not, that same night also had this beauty. It's called a black point sculling crab, named for its obvious black-tipped claws, and we don't see them more than perhaps once a year. This juvenile Atlantic longarm octopus was 2 nights later. It was quite shy when we stopped by, but it did venture out a bit, cautiously keeping an eye on us. Sticking with night dives for just a little longer, we saw this orange ball corallimorph on our last dive of the month. It didn't like our lights that much and pulled in quickly, so we moved on shortly after getting this shot. They really do look extraordinary when completely open. Back on the day dives, eagle-eyed Leslie spotted this very rare fingerprint flamingo tongue. Despite looking closely at every single flamingo tongue we find, we've only seen one fingerprint before on Aruba in 2020. They used to be thought of as a different species, but were consolidated with other flamingo tongue patterns in 2017. Excellent find. This orange sponge with the creamy white peaks is called orange icing sponge. We typically see it sandwiched between lobed star coral heads. Lobed star coral also provides a terrific home for mantis shrimp. We saw this dark mantis shrimp poking its head out from a hole. Leslie and I hung around for a bit, so it got comfortable with our presence. After that, it tried to attack something, and then looped back around into its hole. A larger cousin of the dark mantis is the scaly-tailed mantis shrimp. They are easy to miss, especially if surface swimming to the reef. But take some time to look on the way back. Their light coloring is perfect camouflage for the sandy, shallow bottom. We found this giant hermit crab on the sandy floor at about 70 feet. Here, you can see it's almost as big as Leslie's camera. After she was done, I went in for a close-up as well. I have to admit, they are pretty intimidating, considering most of the hermit crabs we see are smaller than 2 inches. We haven't seen too many sea cucumbers since we've been back on Bonaire, so this 3-road sea cucumber was a nice find. The 3-road variety can be quite beautiful, as this detailed view shows. Check out the pores, lines, and wrinkles in the skin. It kind of reminds us of elephant skin. In contrast, we also saw a donkey dung sea cucumber. It's an unfortunate name, and they aren't necessarily the prettiest, but seeing a few around certainly helps the ecosystem. Swimming over this patch of coral debris, a slight movement caught our eye. We stopped, and it moved again, so we zeroed in on this heavily covered rooster tail conch. From the front, we could see its eyes poking out, and its proboscis checking out the sea floor looking for food. Transparent sea life floating in the water column is hard to spot. Plus, we're usually focused on things 5 to 10 feet away, not 5 to 10 inches. Luckily, salps typically have small amounts of red that not only helps them stand out, but gives the camera a little something to focus on as well. We will close with this bright orange cup coral. We don't recall the last time we highlighted orange cup coral, but it really is gorgeous. It's amazing to us that after over more than 350 dives on Bonaire, we're still seeing so many new things every week. What's also great is that our channel continues to grow every week as well. We very much appreciate you sticking to the end of this video. If you feel so inclined, consider subscribing to TropicLens. We also enjoy hearing from you guys as well, so if you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to leave a note in the comment section below. Thanks! Smiley face.